So here we are, Mel Kiper's first 2023 mock draft. And somebody said to me, when you do your reaction for Mel Kiper's mock draft, could you do it as an instant reaction? I've not actually read this. All I know about this mock draft going into it is that the byline for Mel's first mock draft is Mel Kiper's first 2023 NFL mock draft, how the Seahawks could shake up the top 10. So that sounds really interesting. And before we get started, I want to say I love Mel Kiper. I love the hair. I love the fact that he embodies the draft. So I really want to like this mock draft. This is what I'm saying. I really want to come away liking this mock draft a lot more than Daniel Jeremiah's. So here we go. Let's have a look at Mel Kiper's first 2023 mock draft. Here we are. Right. Come on, Mel. Let's have a good mock. Let's see what he's got. For the first pick, he is not doing trade, Mel Kiper. I think he did some trades last year, but he's notoriously not a big trader. He's gone for Jalen Carter. He says in his blurb, I thought long and hard about a trade here with the Colts, Raiders, and Panthers as the top candidates to move up. And he says that he would move down if he was Ryan Poles, the GM. Listen, I think any mock draft, I said this with Daniel Jeremiah's, that doesn't have somebody moving into here, I kind of already think, because the Bears are not going to stay put at number one and they're not going to take Jalen Carter at number one, I don't think. I don't think Jalen Carter is going to be the first defender off the board. He may well be the most talented player in the entire draft. But as we've talked about, the problem with him is the conditioning issue. Tom McShay talked about character issues. Do you want this guy in the locker room? I think that's mainly down to the effort and the attitude, really. I think if you're going to come out, as we've highlighted in other videos, and say that your conditioning is your priority in April, and then you get to the championship game and your conditioning is a major issue, then that's a problem. CJ Stroud at number 2 to the Houston Texans. I like to see CJ Stroud this early. I think that the one thing we needed to see from him was a bit of improv, an ability to play with that outside of the Ohio State scheme, to be able to scramble around, use his athleticism, make throws on the move in a way that we know he can. And to do that against Georgia was really impressive. And the one thing I will say, I went back and watched Bryce Young's game against Georgia in the college football playoffs a year ago. And it was alarming to me. I mean, he looked, I know there's a bit of bias there because you're going in thinking Bryce Young, small quarterback. But I thought he looked really small in that game. I thought it was a real effort for him. He was having to scramble around, move around. It was noticeable sort of how much he toiled and struggled a bit in that game. And then I watched CJ Stroud play Georgia a year later in the playoff semi-final. And again, just thought, wow, what an amazing performance. I think CJ Stroud's going to go first overall. And he's going second here to the Houston Texans. No issue with that. Arizona, number 3, Will Anderson. Yeah, that's perfect sense. That's what I'm going to put probably in every mock draft. I think that when it gets there, they've lost some edge players. JJ Watt, also Chandler Jones a year ago. I would expect that they're going to probably bring in a defensive-minded head coach and may even just stick with Vance Joseph. And they need some edge threat, and Will Anderson will provide that. Indianapolis, Bryce Young. I still think that because of size, he's going to last a bit longer. And I think that Will Levis and Anthony Richardson may well go above him. Bryce Young is an immensely talented player. I like Bryce Young. You know, I've got him going, I think, 7th overall. So it's not that I dislike Bryce Young. I don't have an issue. I just think his size is, it's when you sort of watch him against a team like Georgia that you realize some of the issues he's going to have. And people get lulled into this. And look, the Miami Dolphins took Tua Tagovailoa ahead of Justin Herbert and took him at 5th overall. And then you sort of watch him on the field and Tua plays all right some of the time. But then there's other times when you really, really notice that he isn't that prototype quarterback who can just hang in the pocket and throw it downfield and make those big plays. And I think that's noticeable with Bryce Young as well. Very naturally talented, but very small. And we'll see. Oh, here we go. Mel, my man. Given the Seahawks, Will Levis. He says, here we go. The 3rd quarterback in the top 5 picks. Levis is going to be polarizing for the next few months. Turn on his tape and you're going to see some poor interceptions and some questionable decisions, but you're also going to see rockets that should have been caught and tight window throws that no other passer in this class can make. There will be a general manager in the top 10 who sees Levis as positives over the negatives. He's also ahead of the curve in learning a pro-style offense because that's what he's played for in the Wildcats. Then he goes on to say, for the Seahawks, do they really think Geno is their long-term answer? If so, they're going to have to pay him. If they tag him, they could play him as a bridge. He says it would help to get Anderson or Carter, but they're gone. So there we go. Mel. This is why Mel is the GOAT. Because he's actually had the balls to do something other than just put the next defensive lineman at number 5 and actually consider something. Will Levis. And the Seahawks fans are going to go nuts on Twitter. And some people in the media are going to complain about this so much. But here's the thing. Will Levis knows Seattle's offense. He's played in it. Liam Cohen, who has just left the Rams, he was at Kentucky the year before. He became the Rams offensive coordinator. He was with Sean McVay in LA prior to joining Kentucky. He's gone back there now. Had a whole bunch of success with Will Levis, who was fantastic in the exact offense that Seattle is running. If he comes to Seattle, he will know the terminology. He will know how this offense runs. And he's had a lot of success within it. He looked fantastic. Now, last season, and people, I don't want to keep going over old ground with this. Last season, they changed offensive coordinator. It was still a pro-minded offensive coordinator from the Kyle Shanahan tree, but he didn't do a good enough job. The offensive line was awful. He had no weapons. He lost his running back for 4 games at the start of the year due to a suspension. So all of those things mixed in, not a good environment. You're playing for Kentucky against the SEC teams. What do people really expect? Do they expect a Heisman campaign? If you put Will Levis in Ohio State's offense with the weapons, with the O-line, with the running backs, with the 5-star talent, or in Alabama's team, or in one of these wide open spread offenses, Tennessee, Washington, you put him at Oregon, you see massive, massive results. And if you put Bryce Young in Kentucky's offense, what do you think you're going to see? What do you think CJ Stroud would do there? Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Hendon Hooker. They'd have got hammered. Will Levis and the Kentucky offense, they gave up 4.2 sacks a game. Like Michael Penix had like 7 sacks all year. There's like in Washington and Ohio State, they gave up less than a sack a game in college football last season. The environment to success simply wasn't there. Levis is a prototype. He's exactly the kind of player that John Schneider has liked in the past. And this would get 2 thumbs up from me. I think the Seahawks do need to seriously consider, as well as Geno played, moving on, saving millions, drafting someone who can potentially come in and know your offense, not run it perfectly, but have a grasp of it early on. And then you'll be able to go and spend serious resources on that defensive line and that offensive line to get better up front there with proven quality. Look at Cincinnati and how they're benefiting from having Joe Burrow on a $9 million average contract, I think it is, and then being able to go and sign Trey Hendrickson and DJ Reader. Look at what their defense did. They can rush with 3 or 4 in Buffalo against Josh Allen. Go and get your DJ Reader and Trey Hendrickson. That'd be my message. You know, go and get a good center or a guard or something like that. You then have the money to spend that. And guess what? You've still got 20. You've still got 38. You've still got the other 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick to add youth and quality to your defense. So, Mel, thank you. Detroit, Tyree Wilson at number 6. I can't complain about this because of the massive size and the length, and he's going to be very interesting, and he is an option for Seattle. There's no getting away from it. He's got to test well, though. He can't just be taken this early because of great size and length. He has to, for me, be able to run a good 10-yard split. I think, given he's a bigger defender, I think what you're really looking for, the explosive traits there, can run a good short shuttle. Those are the kind of things that you're looking for. He's got an injury at the moment, so we'll see if he's all good for the combine. Oh, dear. Mel's put Peter Skoronski at number 7. Again, I don't see a short-armed guard who I've got in the late 1st round. Either. 1, I don't see him as a top 10 pick. And 2, I cannot see the Raiders going in that direction necessarily. If Bijan Robinson's there, I think with or without Josh Jacobs, you've got to consider him. And by the way, I'll tell you now that pretty much every mock draft I'm going to do between now and the end of the season, I'm going to put Bijan Robinson at number 6 to Detroit. I don't know why I didn't do that. I had him at number 8. I'm going to put him at number 6. He's too good. But Peter Skoronski here at guard, I don't know. Now, unless they're going to go and I'm having a look, he's not saying anything about Tom Brady. Oh, he does say something about Tom Brady. He says the Raiders are a team to watch for a trade up for a quarterback, but they also might prefer a veteran. Tom Brady, question mark. If they go for Brady, maybe it's perhaps more likely, but because you've got to protect the guy. So, yeah, but I personally wouldn't put Skoronski there. Miles Murphy to the Atlanta Falcons makes some sense. I'm not a big Miles Murphy fan, but somebody is going to take him between 8 and 15 because of the profile. He will test well. And he's got size, but I thought his tape was very, very disappointing. Anthony Richardson, number 9, makes complete sense. And look, Mel's got it right. He says, let's get this out of the way. I won't play Richardson in year 1. He needs time to develop. He does. Mel also says he's an awesome talent, and he is. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. They've been looking for exciting and brilliance. Oh, Mel. Oh, I've just seen who he's put at number 10. I love this mock draft. Let's just stop the video now and let's just say thank you, Mel. Kalijah Kancey at number 10. Mel's hearing something, isn't he? Mel's hearing something. Mel doesn't do this unless he's hearing something. Now, I personally have had Kalijah Kancey this high in my mock drafts. And then in the last one, I had him to Philadelphia later in the first round because there's just been no buzz. So I just thought, well, I'll put him a bit lower. But I'll tell you something now. I'm not making that mistake again now that Mel Kiper's put him at number 10 because he's hearing something. Kalijah Kancey is fantastic. I love this mock draft. I mean, I don't like Paris Johnson Jr. at number 11, but, swings and roundabouts. I think Paris Johnson's a second-round pick. I think DeJuan Jones is a better tackle. He was the right tackle at Ohio State. Lucas Van Ness at 12. I'm still not getting this. Unless he tests brilliantly, I just don't see him going this early. I mean, he's not 8th overall, like Daniel Jeremiah, but it's 12th overall. If he tests very, very well, all bets are off. But until he does that, I can't put him this high. Because there's not even any suggestion that he's going to run a 4.05 short triple or something like that. Jackson Smith and Jigba to the Jets seems a bit strange. I know that they have only really got production from Garrett Wilson, and Elijah Moore's been a bit of a car crash for them, but they don't really need, and so was Denzel Mims, is it? God, it feels like a long time ago since he was in the draft. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm just not sure he's quick enough to go this early. Devin Witherspoon, 14, no problem with that. Big, physical, hard hitting. He's not going to, I don't think he's going to run very fast. It might be the 4.5s, but there you go. Michael Mayer's a bit low for me. I think Michael Mayer at 15, I think you should be sort of looking at number 11 to the Titans or number 12 to the Texans. And I'll tell you what, if I was the Seahawks, I'd be thinking, can I have a cheeky little move up the board here? Michael Mayer, complete tight end. All about football. He'll be very, very good at the next level. Broderick Jones, not a big fan of that for me. I've got him in, where have I put him in my, I've got my board here. I'll post that later, my updated horizontal board. I think I've got him in round 3 now as a guard. Let me have a look. No, I've got him at the sort of the late second. So I don't think he's a top 20 pick. He ducks his head. Just watch it. He ducks. He says technique's not very. You can't duck your head, especially if you're going to draft him at tackle. You can't duck your head into blocks off the edge. He has to kick inside. He's not got the size. Joey Porter at 17. I mean, that's a perfect fit, that, isn't it? Joey Porter, like his dad, went to Pittsburgh. Tim Gonzalez, it's a need cornerback, and he is exactly the kind of player that Dan Campbell's going to love, like that pick. Oh, Mel. Love it. Keon White, number 19. he's kind of got ahead of me here, because I was seriously going to think about doing a mock draft soon, where I put Seahawks with a quarterback at number 5 and then Keon White at number 20. And I thought, oh, how are people going to react to that? Because I had Keon White in the top of round 2 for Seattle. But I thought, do you know what? If they take someone like Levis, like in this mock, at number 5, and if they do go and get veterans on the defensive line, then why not take a chance on the massive upside of someone like Keon White at number 20, who could fit in this scheme and create some pressure and some disruptions as an inside-out type of guy. I thought that would have been perfect. So Mel putting him at 19 has kind of got ahead of me there, because I haven't seen him that high until now. But again, when Mel does this, he's hearing something. And I really like Keon White. So I think he's a legit option at number 20. Let's see what the Seahawks he does go for here. Okay, I mean, I'm not a fan of this. He's gone for Byron Young at Tennessee. He says, we're back with another Seattle pick. He's mentioning LJ Collier and Darrell Taylor and Bruce Irvin. He says that Young is going to be at the Senior Bowl. He's 245 pounds. He had 7 sacks. I think this is way too early for Byron Young. I think that I've got him as a day 3 pick, and I think that's what he is. I mean, look, he has some nice plays on tape, but I just wasn't wowed by him at all. So, I mean, if you swap those 2 picks around, this would be a 10 out of 10 for Seattle, in my opinion. So let's just pretend that the Seahawks drafted Keon White. Say, well done, Mel. Okay, Tuli Tuipalutu at 21 to LA. This is interesting. There has been a bit of talk. Tony Pauline mentioned this. I had a conversation with Tony Pauline, who was saying, I said, I don't really know where to put Tuipalutu. I've no idea where to figure him out. And Tony said something similar. And then he spoke to somebody on the West Coast, and they said he could go in this range. And actually, when you look on the tape, it's really sort of it's feast or famine, let's say. There are some plays when he's down on the deck. There are some plays where he doesn't do anything, and then he'll win with a variety. He's got like a Euro move, a Euro step. He's got great hands. He can rip. He can dip inside. He can win off the edge. I do worry a bit about his length, but I think that in their system, he makes some sense. I mean, Mel's put him down as a defensive tackle here. I mean, I don't know if he's a full-time defensive tackle at his size, but a bit of inside-out value there. So it is interesting. That's my alarm going off. I don't know why. Okay, moving on. Quinton Johnson at number 22. It's interesting that Mel has got him down at 22, and Daniel Jeremiah didn't have him in his first round, which kind of suggests that maybe he's going to last a bit longer. And look, amazing athlete. I think that for me, that's why I keep putting him in the top 15, because he's going to test amazingly at the combine. And I think that will bump him up. Emmanuel Forbes, I see this a few times. I'm going to have another look at Emmanuel Forbes, because Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper both put him in round 1. He has a whole bunch of interceptions. I mean, I think he mentions here that he has 14 over 3 seasons. He had 6 in 2022. He has a lot of pick sixes. One of them was against Will Levis. I need to go back and have a look at him, because I've got him in round 3, and that's 2 first-round projections. Deontay Banks is another player who I think I've got in round 3. Yes, I also have him in round 3 as well. I just don't know whether he's going to test that well. Good size, doesn't have massive production. Mel mentions here that keep an eye on tight end, and Luke Musgrave and Dalton Kincaid could be options. I agree with that. I put Luke Musgrave and Dalton Kincaid in my top 40, and I think they're going to go a lot earlier than people think. And I think they legitimately one of those, especially Luke Musgrave, I'd say. I think he could easily go in this spot as the second tight end off the board. He's a complete tight end with an amazing physical profile. If he tests the combine, he's going to go through the roof. And I may well put him at 24 in my next mock draft for Jacksonville. Practically saying everything I'm going to do in my next mock draft in this video. Jordan Addison to the Giants makes some sense. I'm not a massive fan, but I can see why they would do it. Okay, Bijan Robinson to the Cowboys. I mean, I am going to criticize Mel here, because Mel's approach to everything is he don't draft a running back in the first round, don't draft a running back in the first round. And That's fine to have that mentality, but you also have to separate your mentality from what happens in the NFL. And, I'll say the same thing that I said with Daniel Jeremiah, that you can say running backs don't get taken that early in the first round anymore, which is a fine opinion to, or not even an opinion, it's a fine observation to make. But one team will take him. He is possibly the best player in the draft. He's certainly in the top 3 best players in the draft. He's going to be graded higher than all the quarterbacks. Doesn't mean he's going to go ahead of them, but it does mean that somebody, at some point in that top 15 is going to go, this guy's too good. This guy's just too good. We're going to have to take him. They're going to have him at the top of their draft board, and he's going to be sat there at 8, 11, 10, and even the Texans at 12, even with Damian Pierce, might just go, look, we're going to take him. So he ain't going to last to the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys fans can get very excited about that, but no. I like the fact that he also, in this mock, though, points out that he hasn't got Brian Brissy in the top 20, which I didn't have, and neither did Daniel Jeremiah. And he also is mentioned that Marzi Smith is a possibility, because Marzi Smith should be considered a possibility in the first round. I don't think Derek Hall should be. He's at 27. I've got Derek Hall. Let me have a look. Derek Hall. I've got him in the third round, so the back end of the third round. I do not think he's going to be a first round pick. Dalton Kincaid to the Bengals at 28. I think it's possible that we could see Musgrave and Kincaid go in this range, and yet I think the Bengals, because of their need for a tight end, that's very, very possible. Denver Broncos, I'm not a big Isaiah Foskey fan, but I understand why they would take a pass rusher. Brian Branch, number 30, I think this is a bit late for me. I think he's too good a player to last this long, and I don't think he will last that long. Zay Flowers at 31, I think he'll go a bit earlier than this, but there we go. Mel Kiper's mock draft, I think he'll go earlier than that. I really like Zay Flowers. So from a Seahawks perspective, I wouldn't take Byron Young at number 20. I would take Keon White, and I definitely would consider. I mean, look for me, if you were just sort of to forget needs for a minute, if you were going to do we're going to draft for the best players available, then at number 20, I am thinking about Quinton Johnston as your wide receiver 3. I mean, what an offense that could be then. I am thinking about Bijan Robinson because he's too good to pass. I probably am thinking about tight ends because certainly Parkinson and Fant are free agents after 2023, and is Will Disley still going to be around? And I'm also thinking about Brian Branch. But as I mentioned before, I don't think those players are necessarily going to be there, and I'm probably my next mock draft going to put Keon White there. So there we go. There is Mel Kiper's mock draft. And I've got to say, well done, Mel. That is a better mock draft than Daniel Jeremiah's, which was all over the place. But I thought that was interesting. And I think it's a conversation worth having as to whether or not the Seahawks should be looking at that rookie quarterback. And I think we've sort of seen with the teams that are still in the playoffs and the opportunities that you've got if you do have that rookie quarterback still, which is what we all expected Seattle to be doing this year in the first place. Geno Smith's had a good year, but as Pete Carroll keeps stressing, the system is a good system. And Will Levis has played the system. So I think it's interesting. And I think if you do go Levis and then you do go either BPA or you take a defensive player at number 20, you've still got 2 picks in the second round. You've got more money to spend in free agency because you haven't piled a load of money into Geno Smith. If you let him walk and you sign Drew Lock and then you draft someone like Will Levis, I think that's a game plan for Seattle. Anyway, what do you think of Mel Kiper's mock? Let me know in the comments section. Please like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. We're doing lots of videos like this between now and the draft. I'll post my next mock draft on this channel as well. And SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more analysis. Make sure you check out the blog. Best thing to do is subscribe. Won't miss a video. Until next time, bye for now.